Good morning, welcome back. It is Saturday, December 23rd, 2023. There's only one event, and it was some AAA USAC event way back in the day, so it doesn't even really register on our radar here. But we have 5 birthdays with cards and 3 or 4 more that we don't have cards for, so let's jump right on in. Unfortunately, we're going to start off a little bit somber today with our first 2 birthdays. So our first one, born on this date, 1961, sadly passed away in an ARCA crash at Talladega in 1987, would be Mr. Tracy Reed. Many of you have probably never heard of him. He was a crewman for Cale Yarborough's Cup team that season, and he started making ARCA Series starts in Cale's backup Cup cars, and would run respectably well, and was caught up in a crash on the middle of the race during that day in 1987 and hit that dirt embankment that they had at the time on the backstretch. Our next one, more of you have been a little more familiarized with. Born on this day in 1964, sadly passed away in 2000 in a Truck Series crash at Texas, Mr. Tony Roper. And of course, Tony, I believe, was the grandson of Jim Roper, who won the first ever NASCAR Cup Series race way back at Charlotte Fairgrounds in 1949. So Tony, part of that group of people during that 2000-2001 stretch that would pass away of those basilar skull fractures. Of course, that's been greatly reduced thanks to many different technologies, including seatbelt technology, Hans device, safer barriers, and even the cars themselves. One more birthday I do not have a card for, and I don't have a date for his birthday, but Mr. Ray Dunlap. He was with ESPN, Speed Channel, Fox Sports, and a few others. He's retired now, and I believe he may work for the Cincinnati Reds organization. He's frequently on Twitter and posts from many Reds games. So he's very active on there as well, very interactive with a lot of fans. So let's go ahead and get with our cards today. Born on this day in 1956, sadly passed away in 2001, and I believe this was in maybe a rally crash or a sports car crash of some kind. But he's raced in F1, he's raced the Indy 500, raced all over the world. That'd be Mr. Michele Alboreto. He did race for Ferrari briefly, didn't have any wins there, and I want to say maybe he even raced for McLaren. But here you see he's with the Footwork Arrows team. He has 1 pole position to his credit from 78 to 90 in the F1 series, but driving the Footwork Arrows car in this particular season, he just always liked him. He just never had a lot of good luck. Up next, born on this day in 1938, so starting to add some years up here. Busch Series driver from the 80s. Obviously, he was a sportsman driver in the 60s and 70s before it transitioned to Busch Series, Mr. Joe Thurman. And Joe was one of these people. He frequently drove for car owner Marvin Thaxton, drove a number 24 Ford frequently, and he was one of the first people that tried campaigning the Fords when the most of the Busch Series guys were going to the V6 engines. He was still running the old clunky Ford V8, but a lot of times teams just do whatever they can afford. Born on this day in 1956, was a crew member turned part-time driver, and then I know he went back to being a crew member. And this was during the era when a lot of the crewmen, some of them would run maybe 1 or 2 Busch races or ARC races a year because they felt it would help them get an idea of, oh, that's what the driver means. Okay, now I know what I need to do. And it was very interesting. But Mr. Peter Suspenzo. And I'm wanting to say he worked briefly with the Elliott Group. Bill, Dan, Ernie, and the Elliott family. And I can't remember where he went, where else he went. I think he might have worked for Ricky Craven for a little while. Like I said, I'm drawing a real big blank on Suspenzo. I've heard the name frequently. His name's popped up in teams recently, so I know he's been in the Cup Series and Busch or Xfinity and Truck Series teams in the last several years. Okay, up next, born on this day in 1959, he was one of the first drivers in the inaugural season of the Craftsman Truck Series with one of their inaugural owners, Mr. Jim Venable, and that would be Mr. Toby Butler. Toby came from I believe it was like the Portland racing scene, the Northwest Series. Never really did take off in the truck series, ran a few seasons, but what I always thought was cool, I always liked this paint scheme with the ortho, and they kind of had, you see, this next one might get a little bit better, but there you can see like it has grass growing around the bottom of it, and one of the recent teams in one of the throwback weekends did a throwback of that one. I thought it was pretty cool, but again, very, very innovative paint schemes for the time. And our final birthday, born on this day in 1969, I believe he will get and should get into the NASCAR Hall of Fame at some point, as he is a former Truck Series champion, former Busch Series champion, and has been runner-up in Cup Series championship. And if this driver would have won a Cup Series championship, to me, winning those 3 titles is automatically punches your ticket. But Sterling Marlin affectionately nicknamed him the Bug-Eyed Dummy after a crash at Watkins Glen. That'd be Mr. Greg Biffle. These cards are in no particular order, but I did start with the Truck Series uniform card here. And he fits our chameleon theme, because you will see he has a lot of different colors. We've seen that one a lot recently. Charter Communications, I believe that was a cable outfit. 3M, of course, Hendrick poached that sponsorship from Roush. City Financial, that was a mid-2000s banking. I think City's still around. National Guard, Subway, they always had a good relationship with Biffle. AmeriQuest, who can forget the predatory lending companies of the mid-2000s? 3M, we've seen them, but it was a different style, as well as the National Guard Subway, different colors there. Granger was always a fixture with Biffle. If you've seen Granger, you knew for the most part it was going to be Biffle. I believe they came back to sponsor Childress briefly with Newman. Dish Network during that time when a lot of communications companies were kind of getting in. So we got some different paint schemes here that we're just going to jump all over the board with. Most of these are going to be Cup Series. There's that KFC card, nice looking card. Rookie card in the Xfinity Series, Busch Series, because he ran yellow tape on the nose but also had it on the back bumper as well. I like that paint scheme. We have a Cheez-Its and a Roush Performance Plus motor oil. A 3M variant. Then there is a Subway, and I'm not sure who that is. Some kind of National Guard card, perhaps. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I think this paint job is strikingly similar to Ted Musgrave's Family Channel paint scheme. And ironically, it was on the 16 car. There's another look at the number 60 car without all the yellow tape on the front. There's a good look. This is the one that really sells me on it being a Family Channel replica. Got a Post-it. I'm sure that was part of the 3M deal there. Another different 3M Cup Series Jackson Hewitt Tax Service. Of course, we've seen Tax Slayer be pretty regular, and I'm sure TurboTax and some of them other folks. And his inaugural Cup Series scheme with Granger, this was probably my favorite out of all of them, because it was an in-your-face look. Of course, he won that race at Daytona. Albeit a gas mileage race, he still got to the finish line first. So that has been birthdays and no events today. But a lot of birthdays to talk about today. Hope you all enjoyed the video. As always, thanks again for watching. Hit that like and subscribe button on the way out. Really, really would appreciate it. And we will see you tomorrow.